Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Christoph.
Good morning, Carsten.
Thanks for joining me here in the session. Good morning to this month's Tech Talk. Every Wednesday, last Wednesday of the month, we're meeting here, 10:30, 11:30, depending on which time zone you're in. So
maybe quick checkup in advance. Can everyone hear and see us? So exactly. Is the sound quality okay or perfect?
We got a clear yes. Perfect.
Yep. Thanks for your feedback. Much. Then I think we can start.
We can start. Yeah. So welcome to this session of Tech Talk this morning. And today we talk about hybrid work environment. Hybrid work environment, Christoph, I always imagine like, okay, I work from anywhere, basically. Work from home, work from the office, even from the office, yeah, from time to time now. Yep. After COVID is a bit back.
Yeah, exactly.
Pushed back, sorry. That is good.
Yeah. So the last 2 years have really changed the concepts of how you can work, and it's not only work from home or work from office, it's work from wherever you are at the moment. And we have some interesting tools and possibilities with our devices that we will show in this Tech Talk.
Correct. And I always like the term smart working.
Smart working.
Smart working is a really nice term. That sounds so smart. So let's continue from here. And let's have a brief look into the agenda.
So let's start the screen sharing. Yes.
And exactly. We will start with the remote access concept. What does it mean? What is possible? And you will explain this very nicely. We go for secure Wi-Fi. What is our implementation? What are the services? And then I think it's really brilliant that you have prepared 2 labs again.
Exactly, yeah. Same as last time with the VLAN Tech Talk. This was very much appreciated from our customers. So we will again show on the device in an on-premise environment and in Nebula how secure Wi-Fi is configured and what possibilities I have when using secure Wi-Fi. And yeah, this is quite interesting. And of course, if you have any questions during the session, please directly ask them here in the chat, and I will try to explain everything.
Absolutely. And I think if you're not so familiar with Nebula yet, we always invite you to, for example, train yourself and understand maybe the solution a bit better, our Nebula Cloud solution. And we have prepared our Campus Academy for that. So you can find it at academy.TECHtalk.eu. There you can find free training as well as paid training. If you're a partner, you have advantages. You get discount or free trainings even. You can certify yourself as a certified network engineer. And we definitely invite you to visit our Campus Academy. You can also see there the previously recorded Tech Talks. You will find this recording there. You will find the material there. So everything is on that. And if you are not sure on Nebula, what is it, on cloud, I'm not sure, can I use it also, then please visit that or
we offer several free training courses. The ZCNP program is completely free for all the customers.
Correct.
And ZCNE is it's not free, but if you're a partner, then you have your partner benefits and can get your courses for free depending on your partner status.
Absolutely. And I think what is also very interesting with Nebula is, and this we can already share, is that the configuration of such thing, what we are doing today, is always much easier in Nebula.
So it's quite intuitive. Of course, Nebula is still, let's say, in development. It's working good, but we don't have all the features that you have in the on-premise environment. So you need to decide if you want to have more configuration possibilities or if you want easy configuration in Nebula.
Is there, by the way, also a mixed possibility that I have my firewall on premise and the access point on cloud?
In some conditions, yes. I would not recommend it, honestly, because if you use Nebula and you have everything in one place, also if you're a managed service provider, for example, you can manage all your customers' networks directly from there. We have several tools. So we have the MSP tool there, for example, where you can have then an overview of all your customers. You can do the network configuration for your customer from wherever you are. So
and if you are a partner in servicing customers, then you have also an app, and you can also see there what are the possibilities, what is currently happening to the access point, for example, if a customer of yours is calling. So that's always interesting. So the transparency is great.
Yep. We have a lot of content in our academy and in our support service portal, which comes to this slide.
Talking about this, exactly, we have our three portals that we would like to always announce. So the one is the partner portal, I guess you know that already. And then the support service portal, kind of as the center of communication when it comes to support and unboxing videos and ideas that we are sharing. And then the learning platform, the Campus Academy. And as said, you can reach all that via the SSO. So you need one password, one login, and you can access all the platforms.
There just was a question from a customer, Mr. Srins, if the TECHtalk will always be in English in future. So we just had the German sessions an hour ago. You can find the recording in our academy today afternoon. Maybe you had just the wrong registration link here. So
exactly. So we do it in German and English that we can share. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't speak any other language. Same for you. So that's the current situation. And yeah, the recording for the German session.
The recordings and the slides, everything will be available. And if there are any questions, we have several contact options. Yeah.
Correct. So, okay, let's jump into the topic then.
Yes, let's start with our classic remote access concept. So I will explain three methods of remote access, of client to company, client to site access. So the first one I will explain is the L2TP over IPsec. This is a most common used method that
maybe
we can
we
offer.
Should mention, why do I need at all, let's say, a VPN connection?
Yeah, that's a good question. So maybe I can explain it with this small topology here. And we have our internal web server, we have our file source and our mail server. And of course, as a company, I don't want to make everything accessible from the web. So some companies still require more security on top of their network, and it requires to, let's say, have a direct connection with your company network, where we come to VPN then.
Yeah, correct. So that's a perfect possibility to access the servers in your company.
Yeah, you don't need to open up any ports to directly access your servers. You can, you need to have the VPN connection then.
Perfect.
So HTTP, most common used method that we have. The reason here is because it's natively supported with nearly every end client. So you have it on Android, on iOS, on macOS, and on Windows. The configuration is, I would say, easy, but it depends on the end user. So some end users can do it, some not. We will show some easier options in the later slides when we're talking about SSL VPN client and Ipsec VPN client, where you can assist your user with the configuration. But here we don't, it doesn't require any licensing on our devices, and it doesn't require any licensing on the end client.
That's an advantage. On the other hand, Christoph, you're also doing a lot of our internal team and supporting them. I think the most questions you get is for this one, isn't it?
Yeah, this is also honestly the most common method that we use here internally. And of course, when you have a lot of users using a technology, you get a lot of problems or feedback that some also, in my perspective, easy things, but maybe for the user, a hard thing is not working.
Correct. Good. Yeah, let's jump into it.
Yep. So quick recap here. We have the L2TP client, which can be a mobile end device or stationary desktop. And this establishes a connection over the L2TP over IPsec tunnel directly to our gateway. For HTTP, there is a specific network needed or subnet needed, and this then will be routed to whatever destination you want from your router. So you can then define rules that L2TP client can maybe access the web server, but not the file server for whatever reason. So you are very, very flexible here.
Do we see any bottlenecks in terms of, okay, if I build up a VPN connection on my computer, obviously every traffic I have goes through that tunnel?
Yes and no. There's a function called split tunneling. So you can keep your local network or internet traffic locally. And for resources that require your VPN connection, the traffic will be sent over the L2TP tunnel. But, and the but in uppercase letters, this requires manual setup on every client.
I could imagine, and I guess a lot of people have really problems with that to set this up. But we have a better solution to that. We will come back to that later.
Yep. So we are quite flexible here in terms of security. It is an IPsec over. It is an IPsec tunnel, so we have a high security. It is possible to use strong keys and strong hash algorithms, but of course, the end client needs to support it. And if the end client doesn't support the strong encryption,
there's a certain limitation.
There's a limitation, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so to enhance this?
Yep. To enhance this, we have the Secure Extender SSL VPN. So Secure Extender is sharing the name with it for the SSL VPN and IPsec client. Both have the same name. Both are completely different. So the SSL VPN client, as the name says, establishes a VPN tunnel over HTTPS or SSL. It's a thing that every client can do. So it's like web traffic. Even if you're in a hotel environment that might not support outgoing IPsec traffic from his guests, you can still use the SSL client because this always works.
Yeah, that's a good advantage, actually. A good example that I do see when you're going out in hotels. You do see that more and more, that suddenly this is not possible.
Yeah, exactly. So there's then no regulation here, and we have the easy to configure client available on Mac OS and Windows. For Mac OS, you need a license. For Windows, it's a free client that can be downloaded on our download pages. The setup is here quite easy. So even if I, as an administrator, just send my employee the file for installation, he just needs to enter the server address and his username and password. So 3 things he needs to enter. The only new thing for the employee would be the server address.
Correct.
But this could be something like vpn.ssl.eu or whatever. So
yes. Host you can store it probably also.
Yeah, of course you can.
Once you have done it, it's stored, and then you go from there.
Yeah, you can store your login details. And while talking about flexibility, also from admin perspective, it's a bit easier to configure, like the L2TP over IPsec or IPsec VPN client, because you can easier assign allowed subnets to your SSL VPN client. So you can say, okay, my ERP subnet or my mail server subnet is allowed for remote clients, but not my database or management subnet.
So if you, for example, have persons that need to access certain services in your own network, you can really isolate them from, okay, they're allowed to service A, but not to service B.
It's a good example here is if you work with outsourced companies that offer services to you and you just want them to manage your web page, then you only give them access to that resource. They just need to install the client. They don't need to have a full L2TP over IPsec tunnel, and if they use Windows clients, you don't even need licenses for them.
No, they have good control, definitely.
Yes. So the topology here is looking nearly the same. So we have a dedicated SSL VPN IP subnet, which is then routed inside the gateway. The only difference is here that the tunnel is established over over HTTPS or SSL and not IPsec.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. That is straightforward. Let's come to the next.
Let's move to the Secure Extender again, but now IPsec VPN client. So here it's again a dedicated client only available for Mac OS and Windows.
And it has to be installed on the machine.
It has to be installed on the machine and licensed on both Windows and Mac.
Correct.
So advantages here. Why would I use this? So good point here is the availability of stronger keys and stronger encryption algorithms. So I, as an administrator, can explicitly define which algorithms or encryption type I want to use. So I can use the highest encryption possible in our devices with the IPsec VPN client.
And I think that is getting more and more important, actually.
Yes. Another benefit here is a native multi-factor authentication support.
True.
So while connecting with the IPsec VPN client, you get a pop-up where you then need to enter your MFA key.
And you can use any kind of authentication tool for that or app for that?
So we have tested with Google Authenticator, which is natively supported and recommended, but it also works with other authenticator apps like Microsoft Authenticator. So every key generating authenticator.
And if you haven't done this before, it works in a way that I have to download the app. I have to link the app to a service we will show that a bit later.
I will show this a bit later, and this is also a bit different if you use an on-premise environment or Nebula. In an on-premise environment, the administrator needs to do it together with the user to register the multi-factor authentication. In Nebula, the user can do it on his own. He's getting
that's a good advantage.
He's getting a welcome email and with instructions how to configure the multi-factor authentication.
Okay.
I will also show this later
But what we definitely can say is two-factor authentication, for example, with Google Authenticator, is very easy and kind of free of charge.
Yes. Also, configuration-wise, this is for the admin maybe a bit harder than L2TP. For the end user, there are options to deploy the configuration over a server to the client. So the user just needs to enter a server address and his user details, and he can then download the configuration file for the Ipsec Vpn client.
I think that is a great service. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe quick summary, because this was a question asked previously in the last session. What options do I have in Nebula here? In Nebula, I can have the Secure Extender Ipsec Vpn client and, of course, the L2TP. We don't support the SSL VPN yet.
That's is that coming? Is that on the roadmap? Do we know that?
I don't know. Actually, eventually, I don't know yet, but maybe we can talk about this, and we can use this question in the next tech talk and give feedback there. Yep.
Yeah, good. Perfect. Right, and that's, so to say, the scenario that we would like to discuss a bit more, which I really am a big fan. I have it myself, and it's really great. So how it works, I'm in the company, I have my laptop, I work with the normal services that I have in the company. Then I go home, and in my case, I have an access point from TECHtalk. Then I have a SSID broadcasted at home, which is the same that I have in the company. So my laptop or my device thinks that I'm still in the company, and I can access all the services that I have because of the tunneling and so on that I have in the company. This is a great implementation.
Yeah, the keyword is here plug and play. So I, as a company, I hand over an access point to my employee. The employee just takes it home and connects it to his home network.
So if I have an access point at home and I got one from my IT department, maybe send it to, can I use it also for private usage, or is it only business usage?
Yes, so we have the secure tunnel mode, of course, which tunnels your complete SSID, tunnel SSID traffic to the company. So if you in your home connect to your company SSID, all the traffic will be sent directly to the company's network.
Okay.
But we have an option that is called local bridge SSID. And this is just distributing an SSID that is directly going to the internet or to your local network. So if you, for example, connect with your local bridge SSID home or whatever, you can still contact your local printers or Amazon Echo or whatever. So these things are then still working.
Okay.
If you're connected to your company SSID or the SSID provided by your company, then you have only access to your company resources.
So I don't have to have at home, I don't have to have two access points, one for private, one for business. That's not needed.
Exactly. I even recommend that you deactivate the Wi-Fi on your local home router, because you probably have them both nearby and they would just interfere the signal, and which causes some, let's say, decreased Wi-Fi performance compared to if you have only your company access point.
And I think we can also proudly say that our access point is very, very capable, very performing, and is very much usable then.
That's a good point. So let's quickly talk about compatible devices for the secure Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Currently, it's our WAX series, so our triple mode Wi-Fi 6 access points, as well as our current triple mode Wi-Fi 5 access points, the WAC 500 and 500H. It is not supported with NWA series or any other legacy series like that.
If I don't know which one to choose, where can I go to find that? Is there a possibility for that?
Yes, let's quickly check that, because it's actually quite easy. So we have an article here where we are explicitly mentioning that.
Okay.
So first thing, so if you just Google TECHtalk secure Wi-Fi, then this should be one of the top results in Google. Second option could be directly in Nebula. We can quickly check that. We can quickly check. We will anyways go to the Nebula interface later, and I will give some insights to the secure Wi-Fi setup here. But let's quickly check how you can, as a customer, find out which device is supported. Access point. I go here, and it should be visible if I hover over here somehow. I think so. Anyways, I will find it out and will provide you with the information later. But first point of contact should be our support portal.
Yes.
And it is also, I know that it is visible in Nebula, but maybe I find it later.
And we also have the product selector, isn't it?
Right, we have the product selector, selector.ssl.com, but we also checked previously Wi-Fi. Secure Wi-Fi is not visible there yet, but it is visible in the appliance data sheet. I will come to this later when I talk about the restrictions.
Yeah.
And yeah,
very good.
Let's continue.
Yeah, let's jump into the scenarios a bit more.
Yeah, so quick topology here. So on the left side, we have the remote side where the remote worker has his access point connected. And we see the subnet here in 192.168.10.50. And this is exactly the same subnet like in the enterprise network.
Correct.
Should be a quick typo, but it should be the same. So we are distributing the same SSID here.
10 dot.
Could be, so it is not mandatory to have the same. There are several reasons to use a different subnet, and I will also explain this in the lab. I have also in our lab that we will show, we will use a different subnet because you can use more firewall rules on it. You can restrict traffic. You can limit the broadcast domain. I've explained this in our last tech talk about VLAN, what a broadcast domain is. And you can also enable things like captive portal on that subnets.
True. So you talked about our last tech talk, the VLAN session that we had. So if you missed that, you can always go to academy.ssl.eu and watch the recording again or see the material. Yep. If you're not familiar with VLAN, then you can do that or get yourself familiar.
Yeah, we had a walkthrough through the VLAN setup on a firewall and on the switch, and some of these things we are reusing for this today's session.
Correct. Good.
Okay, quick summary about secure Wi-Fi. So first point, we are simplifying the user experience. You just hand over the access point to your employee. He just needs to connect it with the power supply cable and the patch cable. And we have 2FA possibilities. So besides the user authentication that we can use, we can put the two-factor authentication on top to also prevent from misusing the SSID at home from the son or whatever. Yeah.
True.
And we have no change in ways of working for remote workers. So
I think that's a great point.
I think it's a main point here. There's no it's company environment at your home office.
How often do we get questions from our employees internally? Okay, I can't reach this or that service. What do I need to do?
Yeah, that's the point. So as more services you have, the more unsure the employee is for what he needs a VPN access or not. Some are using hybrid cloud environments where some services are already in the cloud and some not. Some require VPN and some not. Not
Correct.
Everything is known by the employee, and we want to make it as easy as possible.
It's also changing from time to time.
Yeah.
You need to be honest on that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, hybrid setup across any environment. So you don't need to have a dedicated IP address at home. It's just connected to your router. It's plug and play, and this will always work.
Yeah. Licensing, a very important thing, of course. What are the licenses I need for the various devices?
Yep, Secure Wi-Fi is a service that needs to be licensed. It's included in our ATP's Gold Pack. For the USG Flex, it can be purchased for 1 month, 1 year, or 2 years license on top. If you are using Secure Wi-Fi Nebula, you also need the ProPack license on top. I will later check where you can see it in Nebula, and I will also give some details about the licensing on the on-premise environment.
Good. You can see it then on the device.
Yep.
Yes.
There are some limitations. So, of course, you cannot connect as many remote access points as you want. So we are on the one hand limited by the maximum number of possible IPsec tunnels, because again, the access point is establishing a side-to-side tunnel to the remote gateway in your company.
Right.
So you are using the maximum concurrent IPsec tunnel numbers. Plus, we are limited in 50% of maximum managed APs. For example, if your ATP 200 is currently supporting 80 local APs to be managed, we take 50% of that, and we can hand over 40 APs to our remote workers.
And it's built in, kind of, that I can use 40. And I think the reason is performance. You want to make sure that we still have the performance on the installation that the customers need.
We can also quickly go back to, I have bookmarked here where we have the data sheet of our USG Flex series. And there we can quickly check the specifications. Let's open the capacity and performance tab here. And we see maximum concurrent IPsec tunnels. And if we take the USG Flex 200, we can see that this supports 100 IPsec tunnels. So if you already have 99 tunnels established to different branch offices or whatever, you can deploy one remote access one remote access point. If you don't have any tunnels yet, then you are limited by the other specification. You can find it here in key features, VLAN management, and that's already mentioned maximum number of tunnel mode APs. So in general, it's 50%. For some devices, it might be different, but it's a good point as an administrator to be aware. Okay, to think about.
Yes. So this is a sheet where I can find it.
Yep. Okay, let's continue. No questions yet, so I think we can start with the first lab.
Yeah, perfect. You prepared something. We have the ATP and we have the access point.
Exactly. We have a classical office or enterprise network. We have the security gateway connected to the internet. We have a switch, and we have one AP connected here in our test lab. This one access point is sending the SSID office in the standard network 172.16.1.0 in VLAN 1.
Correct.
Then on the other side,
that's a default configuration.
That's a VLAN 1, isn't it? Pretty default configuration. Yeah.
Good. So nothing that I need to do.
Then on the other side, we have the remote workers network, who has then his router accessing the internet. Can be a VMG or Fritzbox or any other router
any kind of access to
any kind of internet access that you have at home. And here we are having the SSID remote in an additional subnet 172.16.2.0 in a VLAN 10.
Yeah, I see you use a different VLAN. Why are you using a different VLAN there?
I will show this and explain this in the lab session.
Okay.
It's mainly used for identifying the traffic and sending it to a captive portal for web login.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So this makes the thing a bit easier. It's not required. We can also have the SSID office here, but we want to show the full security features. We want to show two-factor authentication and user login. That's why I've used it like this.
Okay.
But you as a customer, you're perfectly flexible with that, and you can choose whatever you want. Maybe important side note, this VLAN 10 is not required to be configured on the remote workers network, because this traffic is tunneled from the access point through the Ipsec Vpn tunnel to the remote gateway. Last thing we have configured is the local bridge SSID. So the SSID that is sending the traffic from the home office directly to the internet, not going to the company network. We have the SSID home just with a standard Class C subnet.
Correct. So these are my two SSIDs I have configured at home. Remote for the business and home for the home environment, and they are totally isolated with different VLANs.
Exactly. So there is an additional question from Mr. Srins. Does VLAN work at home? Must home router switches interpret VLANs or not? No, they don't need to, but they can. So for the tunnel SSID, it is not required that that VLAN is possible. Of course, you can put a VLAN on the local bridge SSID. And if you do this, I will also show this in the configuration later. If you do this, then of course it requires to have a VLAN capable router or switch. Sure. I'm not sure about any environment where this is really needed at home, but maybe, I don't know yet. There might be some options.
But it's possible. So
yeah, it's possible. I will also show it now in the lab.
Good.
So let's switch to the lab. So we have our ATP 200 here. And now we are on the interface. And the first thing we need to check now as an administrator is, do we have the license? Am I allowed to use the service here? So we move to configure, licensing, registration, service, where we have an overview about all our activated or not activated licenses and also the expiration date. And we can see secure Wi-Fi is licensed until November this year. And it's also showing the maximum amount of APs that can be connected.
Yeah. So if I have an additional license, a bigger license, I could also add more. It
This
depends
is already,
again on the ATP.
it depends on the device, of course. An ATP 800 can offer more
of course
access points to be managed, but this is a maximum limitation here because we have the gold security pack here, which already includes everything. So there's, at least for the ATP, nothing you can put on top.
Yeah.
Okay, next thing. So maybe side note, everything that I will show now is already configured. We will not do the configuration step by step, but I will explain what needs to be done and what needs to be taken care of.
Perfect. So what's the first step? I have the licenses now, I'm on premise, what do I do?
So for an on-premise environment, everything needs to be configured locally from the administrator. So you need to have your access points in Office before you hand them over to your employees, and you need to connect them locally to your gateway.
Good.
So we will check the connection of the access points now. So we go to wireless, AP management, and we can see here that 2 access points are already in the list and managed. The adding access points here to the managed list is quite easy. It was a bit more complicated in the past where it required additional DHCP setup and DHCP options. But now, if most of the things, and you're not using any fancy VLANs, if most of the things are on default, then you just connect the access point in default configuration to your network. It will appear here in the list, and you click on the plus.
Very easy.
Very easy.
Straightforward. Yeah, true. So that's much better now.
We can see that we have 2 access points in our list. We have the WAC 6502, which is a legacy Wi-Fi 5 access point. And we have a new Wi-Fi 6 access point, the WAX 510D. So now we need to make this access point be a remote access point using the secure Wi-Fi. To do this is quite easy. We double click it here and we tick the box for remote AP. Now the access point knows that he needs to establish an IPsec tunnel to the remote gateway when he's not in Office.
Right.
So the access point will now still work locally as a managed access point, but if you change, let's say, the public IP address, you connect it to a different tenant line, then it will try to establish the IPsec connection. Automatically.
I don't need to take care. Okay.
So let's continue. So we need to make now the access point know who to contact and where.
Correct.
And that is being done in the AP policy tab. And there you can see we can change the address of the primary access point controller. I have explicitly used the dynamic DNS address here because it's really not required that you have a static IP address in your company network, and also dynamic DNS address will work here. You can put a host name in here. The remote access point will resolve this DNS name and will connect then to the public IP that you have at that moment. Maybe one side note to IP addresses, we really recommend that you terminate your internet connection in the firewall. So really that you have your public IP directly in your router and you're not working in a double net environment. Of course, this might work if you forward the respective ports, but it's more work for you as an admin. It's harder to troubleshoot if something is not working. And there might not really be a reason to have this environment. So just bridge your internet traffic to the firewall and directly have your public IP in your firewall.
Yeah, true.
So next point is we need to define our SSIDs that we want to have in our remote environment. So we go to Object, AP Profile, SSID, and there we can see that there are currently 3 SSIDs configured. We have our default SSID, which is called Office, which is only also linked to our Office access point. Then we have the SSID Home, which we will configure in a local bridge SSID later. And we have one SSID Remote. Let's quickly click in it here. So of course, you as an administrator, you still have the option to select a security profile to your needs. So you can use the same security profile like you have in your company network with the same pre-shared key, or you use technologies like WPA Enterprise to connect your local user directory. You have several options here.
Everything is possible. Okay,
everything is possible. What is quite important is the forwarding mode here. So we have here local bridge and tunneling, and we have the VLAN ID. And if you configure this SSID as a secure Wi-Fi SSID, then this setting will be ignored.
Okay.
So independent from what you select here, it will be ignored because the complete traffic will anyways be tunneled. So even if I put here VLAN 10 or VLAN 100, it will be ignored if the SSID is tunneled. If for the local bridge SSID, that is the SSID to access the internet from my home directly, and this is also something to the question from Mr. Sreens before, I can select a VLAN, and this VLAN is then required in the workers network. I'm still not sure about any scenario here where this might be needed, but if something might be not working, please check. This could be an issue because there was a VLAN set. So we have our SSIDs configured now. Now we need to assign them to the access point. So we go back to our AP management. Instead of AP group, where you normally assign SSIDs to your access points in an on-premise environment, we do it here directly from the AP list. So we double-click the access point. If we scroll down now, we see that there's an option for secure tunnel SSID. There, I can select my SSID profile, remote, and I can select a local interface. I can select a VLAN. Now I'm tunneling all the traffic from the remote SSID to my local interface VLAN 10. So I put my remote workers in a separate VLAN. How the VLAN is set up is being told in the last TECHtalk. So you can check it up there or in our Help Center articles. And I will also explain why I did it like this. The reason here is the captive portal and the web login page. We will also go to this setting.
Good.
If we scroll down a bit more, we have the local bridge SSID, and this is the SSID that gets distributed next to the tunnel. Okay. If we click on OK, then everything will be fine. And also maybe quite important, of course, you need to prepare this in advance in your local lab. But if you want to do changes later and the AP is already connected and visible here in the menu, you can still do that as an administrator. So it doesn't require to have the access point back in the office.
Once it's connected, it can be remote. It builds a tunnel.
Like changing the SSID password or whatever.
Good.
So a quick journey to the captive portal. So I have enabled web authentication on VLAN 10 here. So that forces the remote worker to authenticate via our web portal with his username and password. What I also did is I enabled the Google Authenticator here, which then puts some security layer on top and also requires a remote worker to have his Google Authenticator or also Facebook or Microsoft Authenticator, which works, to have it ready and enter the code after logging in to his Wi-Fi.
Yeah, this is super easy. I mean, it's an app on the mobile. You use a code there and that's it.
Let's quickly also move to the user settings here for setting up the two-factor authentication. So the current limitation is that this is only meant for smaller environments where you can configure your users locally on the gateway. So you need to configure every user here and can then configure the two-factor authentication. If you're using, if you would like to connect your Active Directory or user directory from your company, then 2FA is not supported. Could be implemented with an external login page, but it's not natively supported on our devices. One other point is that the two-factor authentication needs to be done together with the administrator and the user directly from here.
So you need to have the app and you need to scan the code.
Imagine I configure it for you, then I need to get you on my desk. You need to get your app, scan the QR code, and register your multi-factor authentication. This is much easier in Nebula because we're just sending an email to the customer. He can do it by himself.
Whenever he wants,
So we have now the configuration done. And let's check the status here. So since it's a VPN connection, we can simply check the status in the VPN monitor under monitoring, network VPN monitor, and we have the remote AP VPN option here.
And there we see it, correct.
We see that the WAX 510D is connected. We have, it uses an additional subnet to communicate, to have the communication between the access point and the gateway, but this is really nothing that the administrator need to take care of, only when there might be a subnet overlapping if this 192.168.60 is the default IP subnet, and
That
usually
depends.
it's not needed to change that.
That
So
depends on the
we see my public IP address, and we see the public IP address of the remote gateway.
Yeah, very good.
That's basically it for the on-premise. So we see we have a lot of options that we need to take care of a few things. We also have the step-by-step guide to configure the same in our support portal. So if you just search there for secure Wi-Fi, you will find a step-by-step guide to configure the same.
Good. So having that done now on an on-premise situation, let's go to the Nebula situation where it's a bit more easier or straightforward.
Easier, intuitive, more intuitive. So we will now show nearly the same topology in Nebula. So let's move to the next slide here. So we have the same topology, it's the same configuration. We are showing the same SSIDs.
Yeah.
Only the configuration is done in Nebula here. So let's move to Nebula. So let's start here.
So that's the main view.
That's the main view. If you log in, that's the standard view that you get. So we again have 2 access points connected here. We have 1 switch connected, and we have 1 appliance connected. It's again an ATP200, and it's having the same capabilities here for remote access point. So let's start again with the same thing like on-premise.
Yes.
We check the licensing.
We need the licenses. Do I have the licenses I need? Yes.
So we go to organization-wide because licenses are handled organization-wide. We go to license and inventory, and we can see an overview of our licenses here. You might be wondering about this message here. So our organization is licensed for this demo, but we use the 30 days of the trial license before. And if you have your trial activated, the 30 days will run completely before your new license will be activated.
So even if I buy licenses now, I'm still in the trial phase, I still get the full the advantage of the full 30 days, and then afterwards, which is good.
Yeah, you basically have 30 days for free for doing evaluations or just save license codes for a month.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
So then we have an overview here. Everything that is needed for using secure Wi-Fi Nebula is the Pro Pack and the secure Wi-Fi license.
Yeah.
Since we are using an ATP200, the secure Wi-Fi license is included in our Gold Pack. And let's check here. Let's check here. So we have more than 90 days, less than our 1-year license. And we can see that also our NCC license, we have it already in orange, and we see that it will expire in the next 90 days. So we already have the orange warning here that we need to take care of something in the next 3 months.
So if I would like to take care of something now, like extending the licenses, what do I need to do?
Yeah, the process is pretty easy. We can now click on purchase license here, and there's something like a license configurator.
Okay.
So we can click through here. We can define our licensing time. So
how long the service should run?
For example, if I want to have it run for the next 2 years, I can select it here. I will just let it on standard now. It will extend the existing license for 1 year now. So we can see here the date for NCC Pro Pack is 28th April next year. And since we already have the Gold Security Pack licensed a week ago, it will extend it to 2024.
Good.
So if we click on next, it already shows us what licenses are needed for what we want to do.
All the devices I have.
All the devices they have. We see that we just need 1 license for the ATP, but 11 licenses each for the having the Pro Pack. Because if you're using Pro Pack, every device needs to be licensed with Pro Pack.
In one organization.
Yes.
In Nebula. Yeah.
Okay. If you click here, you see a summary. We need 33 licenses in total, and 1 ATP Gold Pack in total. And if we go here to go to Marketplace and buy, we will be forwarded to the Zyxel Marketplace, and can buy it from here directly.
Yeah. But we also have Circle, isn't it? I could also buy it in Circle, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
You can directly, if you're a partner and have access to the Circle, maybe it makes sense to have a TECHtalk around Circle.
Yeah.
In the next month. So
maybe we ask our customers. So if you have experience with Circle, then let us know. Is it good or is it bad? would you like to have a tech talk around it? Can we educate you a bit more? Can we give you some details? Please share this with us. We will show a bit later where to push the feedback from your side over to us. And we would be happy to listen in. Yeah, we can do a circle tech talk. Yeah, right.
There's an interesting question from Mr. Srins again. So ATP with licensed gold pack is managed locally without Nebula. Can I still manage the AP in Nebula and use secure Wi-Fi without license in Nebula? The answer here is no. And the reason is here the dynamic host names that are distributed from the Nebula platform. So you need to have your security appliance in Nebula to make the access point aware of the correct address where to connect. So a mixed environment here will not work either. You have everything on premise or everything in Nebula. There might be other scenarios where you don't want to use secure Wi-Fi, where a hybrid environment might be possible, partially on premise, partially in Nebula, but not for secure Wi-Fi.
Correct.
So let's continue.
Now we have the license. We know that we can use the service. So how do I get it online or configured?
Exactly. So we go to access point, monitor access point, where we see an overview of our access points. And we can already see we again have a legacy WAC 6503 Wi-Fi 5 access point, and we also have one of our newer Wi-Fi 5 access points, triple mode access points that support secure Wi-Fi. We can already see here that remote AP is enabled, and there are two options to configure it and to make it a remote AP. First one is I select one or multiple access points. I click on AP role and I can activate it. I will not do it now. I will do it in the next menu. You can also click here. This is now the single access points overview. You have the remote AP option here. You click on the pen and you see an overview about your SSIDs.
Perfect.
This is basically the same that you also see on the on-premise device, but maybe a bit easier.
Yes, and there you have the remote AP button, kind of.
Yes, you need to enable it first. Here in the first list, you can decide which SSIDs you want to deploy. We again have our remote SSID that is already configured. I will show it later. I think it makes sense. And we are also tunneling again to a VLAN 10 interface, which also needs to be configured in advance. Of course, this is just a recommendation or a demo. You can also just use your Office SSID, tunnel it to LAN 1. The employee at home will have the same SSID like in the office and will directly have access to the LAN.
Yeah, good.
So this is again just one click here. If we scroll down, we have again the local SSID settings. The difference between on-premise and Nebula here is I don't need to configure the local SSID setting in advance. I can directly select or decide for the SSID here and change it from here.
Okay.
And also define the key from here.
And change it from here means I change it and I save it, not to forget. Saving.
Yes, saving is important, especially on our switches and on-premise environment. I cannot repeat it more often. So
yeah. You do a nice configuration and you forget to save. That's
exactly. Yeah. So again, difference here is the local SSIDs are not need to be configured in advance here. And this is basically the configuration. Now the employee can take the AP to his home, or I don't even need to have the AP on site in my office. So I can also send the access point directly from the reseller to my employee at home. The employee just sends me the MAC address and serial, and I will do the configuration from somewhere in the world. It's Nebula. I can do the configuration from everywhere.
So the employee doesn't even need to go into the office and collect the access point for that. You can even send it and do it from there. Yeah, it's very convenient.
Yeah. So that's basically it. Let's quickly move again to the SSID settings, where we'll show again how the captive portal is set up and the multi-factor authentication. So we can see here that we have just configured Office and Remote. We don't see the SSID home because this is configured in the Remote AP settings.
Of course.
I have also used TEC because Nebula, if I don't use TEC, then every SSID will be shown on every access point. I've just tagged my local access point with Office and my remote access point or access points with Remote AP. And I use the setting to enable the SSID only on APs with these specified tags.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So then we go to the SSID advanced settings. I've just selected here WPA key. You don't need to do that. Maybe it makes sense, maybe not. It depends on your requirements. And I have enabled the single sign-on with Nebula Cloud Authentication. That's it for the SSID settings. Now, same like on the on-premise device, we need to have the user.
Correct.
This can be done per site. We go to site-wide Cloud Authentication. I don't want to save it here. And we see that I have already created one user here. This username is remote. We can see that this user is authorized and that the 2FA status is enrolled.
What do I do if I don't want to add all my employees into that? Do I have other options as well?
Yes, of course. I can also connect my Active Directory or local directory LDAP server or Radius server.
Okay.
The only limitation here is 2FA is not supported with that.
Of course, yeah.
It requires maybe an additional or external login page, but it's not natively supported.
It's still possible. So if I have a lot of employees, then this could be something to
So
consider.
the difference here is now that once I create a user with his email address, he will get an email from Nebula with the login details, and he will also see a link where he can define his MFA.
Perfect.
Or set up his
Activate
MFA.
the MFA 2FA app, kind of, yes.
Exactly. So this is a bit more user-friendly here, and really it doesn't require that anyone is in office for.
I think it supports a bit more even the hybrid idea of sending out the access point and then the employee can work with that.
Exactly. So that's it for our 2 labs.
Right. Yeah. So that was a clear difference. I think I always think the Nebula is a great implementation. It has a certain limitation when it comes to features still in some areas, but I think setting up a secure Wi-Fi, for example, this is a perfect scenario where you can use it.
As always, you as a company need to define your requirements if you want to have it more granular, configurable than you use an on-premise environment. If you want to be as flexible as you can, you need to use Nebula.
Yeah. So if you have a small company and you have, let's say, 10 employees, and I, as a partner of Ssl, install the Wi-Fi in the company, I could then also offer to pre-configure some access points which could be sent to individuals, and that could save a lot of costs on the IT part of that company because they need less support.
Yeah, right. Especially also you are saving the IPsec licenses, for example.
Correct, yeah.
You save administration costs because you really have less troubleshooting.
Yeah. I think that's a very key point. So you have higher productivity and less costs on troubleshooting activities.
Yeah, you really save time here.
And not to forget customer experience or employee experience is much better.
Yeah, it's always nice if you can hand over something to your employee from your company. And
yeah, right. And you can use it. Yeah, so that's
because secure Wi-Fi is just working with our Pro APs, and I think it's nice to hand such a AP over to your workers. And
that's good. So if you have any other questions, please do so. We still have our question window open here. So far, we have answered all the questions that we have seen. Please be invited if there's something more. I would like to emphasize again that last Wednesday of each month is the day where we do tech talks. If you think that that this time of the day, like 10:30, 11:30, is a bit too early, then please let us know. Then we might think of pushing it back more in the afternoon. That's an interesting, at least observation I have heard about. How do I give feedback to the things that I'm doing?
Yeah, we have several options, but let's start with your questions first. So first option to give feedback is just send us an email, academy@Ssl.eu.
Very easy.
Second option, visit our academy at academy.Ssl.eu.
Correct.
If you, let's quickly do that. If you go here to the TECHtalk page, you have it just on top here. You can first see our upcoming Tech Talks. You can see all our previous episodes. And if you're interested in anything specific, you can use the contact form here. We will evaluate your feedback and might be talk about that in a future session.
So if you have anything that you also would like to suggest on talking about, then do that. You're always very welcome.
So talking about feedback, I have taken an interesting question from the last Tech Talk session where Marcus asked, what is the difference between tunnel mode and bridge mode on our APs?
Yeah.
I try to make the answer understandable here. So in tunnel mode, the AP sends all traffic directly to the Ssl security gateway via a tunnel. There, the traffic can be checked and filtered directly. Local bridge behaves like a switch and sends traffic directly within the respective broadcast domain.
Mm-hmm.
I explained broadcast domain in the last session. So one scenario could here be you have your Wi-Fi setup in your company, and you want to authenticate all the users that connect to the Wi-Fi, and you want to forbid that Wi-Fi client talks to a printer or server directly before being authenticated. So you send all the traffic to the gateway first, and from there it gets routed to your
makes sense.
Network.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, no more additional questions, just some feedback, which very much appreciated. Thank you very much for that. Our next Tech Talk, again, end of the month, end of
25th May.
25th May, the last Wednesday again, talking about cybersecurity. Christoph, we are talking about UTM features, as usual, talking about real scenarios.
Yeah,
anything specific?
It's already the third episode now, and we will again talk about all the UTM functions. We will show real life scenarios and also show the configuration directly on the devices.
Perfect. So then, and I can register for it later today if I want. So that's very, very good. Just to mention again, if you are, we never leave you alone. Yeah, you can always contact us via the support portal, for example. And another thing I would like to mention is the value-added services. So if you think that you need some support in configuring certain things and you would like to really have a session like an education session that we're offering, then we have our various services. If you go to the next page, and you see various services that we are offering, depending on what you want to do, security, VPN, or whatever. Also, this one we can do together. You can learn about it.
Yeah,
and
it's not only a static configuration setup. So we schedule a call with you over Teams or whatever platform,
correct.
And then we explain the configuration while we are configuring it together with you. So
correct. So
it's a private training session, one-to-one training, and
correct. That's what we are also offering. So that we are not leaving you alone. You can follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube. Of course, we are doing a lot of unboxing videos, for example. There, we are doing a lot of education sessions there, and it's always interesting to look around. Did we get another question?
Yes, there are two questions from Mr. Kirschenbauer. The first question, DOH on USG 210. I'm not really sure about that question, but let's go to the second question, DNS over HTTPS. I'm pretty sure that I saw something on the Nebula roadmap that it either is supported at the moment or will be supported in near future. So DNS over HTTPS is something that's coming.
Yeah. It's coming.
Maybe already with the 5.30 firmware that is going to be released soon.
Yeah.
I saw that it is on Nebula already available Since today. For on-premise, I'm not sure yet.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, let's close here. Thank you very much, Christoph.
Thanks, Carsten.
Thank you for joining the session, and see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.